welcome to another instalment of Anne Chats. In this chat, I am chatting with Barbara Brennan, who is the coordinator of St Matthew's Family Resource Centre in Ballyfermot in West Dublin. I first met Barbara a few years ago when she was doing a similar job in Dolphin's Bond. She's also worked in other areas of inner city Dublin. I was interested in finding out how she got involved in this line of work, what her work involves, and her own background and her philosophy of life, because she's a very genuine, positive, uplifting person, and she's proof positive of the joys of doing what you love in life. I hope you enjoy this inspiring chat. Here we are in St Matthew's Family Resource Centre in Ballyfermot, and I'm with the coordinator of the centre, Barbara Brennan. Barbara Brennan, tell us, who is Barbara Brennan?
Wow, where do I start? Where do I start? Do I start here and work back, or do I start back and work forward? Well, I suppose you mentioned the centre, so that's where I am at the moment. This is what I do. When I say this is what I do, this is what I love doing. So I'm one of those people who's lucky enough to have found a job that I actually enjoy doing. So that's what we're doing here. It's a family resource centre. It's basically, we're based in the heart of the Ballyfermot area.
Yeah. We've
got young people, we've got older people, we've got children, we've got grandmothers, we've got, coming through these doors on various, every day we're busy doing all sorts of things. It can be anything from baking cakes to knitting, arts and crafts. Fabulous centre to be in. Great bit of crack, great learning. I would say, as me, it's my job and I get paid for it, and I'm delighted that I do that. But I also get to learn every day, because I get to work with women and men who are so knowledgeable. And I'd often just listen, and you just learn so much. And I say to myself, Jesus, Barbara, if you knew that 20 years ago, you'd be a lot wiser woman now.
Like that would be like older people who come in and they're just talking about the sharing their lives.
Well, I suppose you've got that, and then you've got, I'm trying to, pick up one or two in particular, but you've got basically how we look at life, and I always say that. Do you ever kind of think to yourself, Jesus, what would you say to your 15-year-old self, or what would you say to your 20-year-old self? And sometimes I do kind of think, oh, I'd love to go back and slap myself. No, not really. Yeah. But it's that kind of, when you listen to how wise people who have lived, who are living, in their 60s, 70s, 80s, like our eldest lady here now is 89.
Wow.
Great bit of crack, really bit of fun, and and as I said, the talent is phenomenal.
So they drop in here is it for various courses, or there's a weekly drop-in centre for?
So we've an array. So basically from Monday to Friday, we've got something going on. So on Monday, we have the biggest group, which we did have the beautician, but we're trying to get another beautician in. And she would come in and do the ladies, like probably eyebrows, maybe a little bit of wax and fingernails, stuff like that. And you'd have the meeting and greeting and the chatting, connecting with each other. They're not in their own house, they'd come. And then someone might decide to make a cake. We've got the kitchen there. They might just, who knows then.
And you were saying today you had some women who went into the architectural archive in Merrion Square.
Yeah.
Because they've been interested in that.
Yeah. And that's where we're very lucky that we have got connections with, other agencies. So, you will have heard of Henrietta Street, you will have heard of Richmond Barracks, and and we have connections there with the Culture Club, and basically we go and we visit these places, because don't forget, some of the women and men who are in our centre know about Henrietta Street, have lived on Henrietta Street. And that was their life or their childhood.
You yourself are from originally from Thomas Street.
I raised my children in Oliver Bonds. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was born in Drimna, and then I left there in my teenage years, and nearer 20, I imagine. 23, I think. And so
what was it like to raise your kids there?
Do you know what? It was really good because they went to the local school. The local school is absolutely fantastic down there. The kids went to Francis Street, CBS. And it's just a small school,
Oh, I know.
still
It's
there.
opposite the church there.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that still there?
Still there. My grandchildren go there now.
Oh, wow,
So
yeah,
it's a really good connection. And it's so, it was always a really good school. And with my grandchildren going there now, they're talking about the teachers, and the teachers is called Connor and Anne and Hannah. And I'm like, what happened to, when I went to school, it was Mrs. McCarthy and Sister Evangelist, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you say, it's so different,
Yeah.
it's just a joy. I think even school for the kids is a joy,
Yeah.
as opposed to when I went to school. I think sometimes the teachers didn't even like the bloody kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Sadly, some did. No, in
But
fairness, it wasn't.
you were just saying that you were visiting your son in the area, and that you just, like, even for Francis Street, it's just changed so much from your day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if you walk up the street, we actually had this conversation with my friends. We were saying, did you ever think you'd be sitting outside on Francis Street, having something to eat or having a coffee, and I just still meet my friends, because I still have friends in the area. I worked down there for many years. I worked in the south inner city, and that was in community development as well. So, which is handy for me, because I worked where the school was, and it was easy for school runs, and so I was always very lucky in that respect. Like I was there whilst working, if that makes sense.
Well, I live there, just off Francis Street. I've lived there for nearly 25 years. It's such a brilliant location.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. It's brilliant. And it's great to see how it's evolving as well.
Yeah.
And, the different, I love going down. I don't live there anymore. I live in Ballyfermot, which I'm very lucky. I only live 5 minutes from work as well.
Yeah.
So, that's a good one for me.
So I'm interested in how you got involved in this line of work.
Jesus, how did I get involved? I suppose I probably did fall into it. Yeah, I did. As we began there when we were talking about when I lived in the Liberties with the kids in Oliver Bond, and then the kids went to Francis Street and so on. So I would have been. I would have did my leaving. I didn't do my leaving when I left school. I left school and didn't do a leaving cert.
Oh.
And then when my eldest was in Francis Street, I ended up doing my leaving. It was an adult education thing. It was very early days of adult education and stuff like that.
Were you quite young when you had your eldest?
Yeah. So, Jesus.
So what inspired you to say, now I want to do my leaving cert?
Well, I think it was, when, I suppose just the day to day, I was at the school, I would have been very much involved in, because at the time I wouldn't have been working. So, and they did like reading with kids for fun, and you'd do all that, and you'd get involved in the school. And as I said, the school was really close and small. And there was a lovely, what was his name? Brother Brian was the adult education person, and he was the one and only brother there, as far as I know. And he had like the adult education. So a few of us went in and did the leaving cert there. So
he just one day touted the idea to you. He went, why
did you do it? And I can't even remember the people's names I was with at the time, but I know there was about 5 of us that completed it. Yeah.
And how did you find going back to education?
Well, it was really good because we had total support from himself.
Wow.
In fairness, you know what I mean? We literally, the kids went to school, and and he devoted so much time. He was such a good man, really, really good man. So
I've often thought that about people in religious life, when they dedicate themselves to something like that, they do have the time and the focus.
Yeah. Brian, what was his surname? He was a lovely person. And then I went on then to do another program, and it would have been with the South Inner City actually at the time. And it was like, I suppose you could call it a young mothers program. Yeah. That would have been the old, you know what it'd be like. But basically, it was kind of a lot around personal development. It was a lot around, and we were doing some stuff that was really good, really worthwhile. And I still have actually, when we were leaving, there was about 12 of us in that group, and the tutor there, she was a very lucky Anne, in fairness. Yeah. In all of my working and education life, I have met some phenomenal men and women. Yeah. And Molly would have been the tutor on this on this course, and she was brilliant. And another lady, Alice Davis, which was very much involved in community work, still is, I imagine, in the Liberties area. And they just took it into their heads, you know, to develop this program and all of us, I still see a couple of those women, you know, to this day, because we're all in our 50s, probably some of them, I don't know.
Yeah.
But we all went out and went to work and did our thing. And so I ended up in community work. I remember that there was an exercise Molly did one time, and she was like, what do you want to be? You know, you're like, geez. Bear in mind, I'd worked in a sewing factory when I was about 16, hated it with a passion.
Where was that? Was that on?
That was in Tala. That was, making bras, packing bras.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, it was great. There was great crack with the girls and stuff like that. But the actual physicality of the work didn't.
And the repetition was...
didn't suit me. Sitting on a chair didn't suit me. And you'll realise I'll just want to get up.
Yeah.
But what did I go into then? That was the community. Yeah, so what do you want to be? And I was like, I want to be you, Molly, you know. And she was like, well, you could be. And she was a facilitator, and, you know, and lo and behold, I did. I went on, did my community development, you know, went in, did human resources. So all of the work that I have done from then till now has always been based in the community, has always been working with groups. And I have a passion, you know, for particularly young women's groups and young women starting out with children, because it's not easy.
It's not easy.
It's not easy with two parents, let alone one.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard enough. You talk to anyone with, you know, in a two parents, husband, wife, husband, whatever it is, trying to raise a child, it's difficult. So if you've got someone on their own doing that, especially if they're being hindered by someone else, you know, someone that was supposed to love them and love their family, that's a whole other ball game. Do you know what I mean? So so that's how I just really like the work I do. And as I fell in love with the women here in this centre,
and
you know.
You've also got a creche here, or
we have the preschool. No, that's it. Although it's St. Matthew's as well, they've got their own entity there as well. And we have the parent and toddler then in there on a Monday. So the staff in there are fantastic. They're childcare workers and
so then manager. Is part of your thing too that you advise people, or if they need help with resources, or do you?
I would say that I'd say more directing and referring as opposed to advice. And sometimes it's just listening, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
I remember I'll give you a funny one about the counselling. I remember years ago I was like, I want to be a counsellor. Yeah, Barbara wants to be a counsellor. So Barbara went down to counselling school.
Yeah.
And I remember the very first day, it was an evening course, and they advised that, you know, when you're doing your counselling, that you go and get yourself a counsellor.
Of course, yeah.
And I was like, Jesus, how will I do this? So, you know, found myself a counsellor, you know, didn't go back to counselling school. I loved this counsellor. I was like, this is great. You're going in, you're offloading to this person, you know, you're really doing it. And I still promote counselling to this day, because I do say, don't wait for a crisis.
Yeah.
You know, just go and see. But as I said, the counsellor I had at the time, she was phenomenal, you know, really good. And I says to myself, do I really want to be a counsellor? and I didn't go that direction.
But through that process of going through that with the counsellor, did it kind of focus on what you did want to do?
You kind of find your own, you know, your own personality, really, don't you?
Yeah.
Because I think as well as that, when you are raising a family and you're working and it's like you almost lose what you want to do.
Yeah.
And even to this day, I still say to myself, you know, Barbara, look after yourself, protect your boundaries, you know what you're doing, and make the time for yourself. And I really, that's one of the things I think is really worthwhile, you know, in our lives. And I try to promote that all the time as well, is what do we want? And it's okay to tell someone we're not happy or we don't like what they're saying.
It hasn't been part of the culture in Ireland. It certainly wasn't in our mother's generation, not in our generation. I never heard the concept of what are your boundaries and what do you want. Those concepts I only learned when I was much older and began to, and it's interesting you say that, because I do think that's one of the most important things to having a happy life, is knowing what your boundaries are, and it also leads to better relationships when you you have clear boundaries yourself, you know, because so many women just give everything.
And I think we're raised like that. Or, you know, I speak for myself there. I think that's what really happens when you see, you know, it's like as if we don't want to discommode anybody, or we don't want to, you know, you just kind of don't want to, I'm grand scenario, you know, whereas you can't say to yourself, well, no, I'm not grand, and I'm going to let you know I'm not grand in a nice way, you know, and I suppose this has been generations of learning. I'm really interested in all of this. I'm really interested in the, you know, the books and the self-care and the self-help and the, you know, that side of life really suits me, and the giving yourself the headspace. And, you know, like I said, don't wait for a crisis, you know, look after yourself.
And you have counselling services here?
We do, yeah. We have a counselling service here in the centre. So it's called, you know, it's basically affordable counselling. So according to your earnings, you know.
And are the people referred here, or do you decide, or who?
Anybody who wants or feels they need, are struggling or bereaving or whatever. And like I said, I constantly say, don't wait for a crisis.
Yeah.
You know, and what it is then, it's the person then, if you think of a ball of wool and you're unraveling that ball of wool, and that's basically what, in my head, if I was to describe counselling, that's what I would say it is. Because you know the answers, you know what you want. So it's only really up to the person that's sitting there mirroring back to you, you know, very well qualified psychotherapists are.
But
you know,
it's a very given role, because very people-centred what you do.
Yeah.
And so you were drawn to that.
Oh yeah, I need people, Anne. I have to say, I'm good at the paperwork, I'm good at the, you know, but the bottom line is I do like a team, I like a group, and I like, you know, it's just.
So was the first group in Thomas Street, or was it in Dolphin's Barn? The first.
I would have worked in, was Thomas Street in Meath Street would have been, yeah. So I would have worked there. I was about 18 years there. And it was brilliant. No, it was really good. And you'd be, you know, you'd be in the little shop, you know, you'd be little, or Iceland, I think was before that.
Iceland was where Little is.
Yeah, and you know, you'd be there and you'd be doing your shopping or wherever it might be, or you could be walking on Thomas Street and somebody'd be coming along beside you saying, oh, Barbara, I'll drop into you, or, you know, like, and it's just so nice. And I'd laugh because my son, now one of my sons is a barman, you know, and he'd just be like, I remember going along with you and people would just start talking to you, you know, and he was like, that's what I'm like. And I says, yeah, heroes, you're me now.
He's just similar thing. It's like the barman, the counsellor, yeah. He sees it all, yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's like people talk to you and chat to you, and you know, and that's it.
And you were genuinely there in the community, really extended. So, how long have you lived down in Ballyfermot then?
I'm there now. I must be 12 years there now. Yeah.
Out here, yeah.
Out there, yeah, living there, yeah. And it's nice. Growing up with the kids in the flats was good, and the community was fantastic and stuff like that. But it's like everything, you need the space, you know. And you find yourself then you're in a house and you're living, and then you're saying, how did we all have room in that flat? Because we have no room in it, you know, so it's just everything like that. Yeah. But and we're very happy where we are. But we still ramble down now. I'd still go down and go through the area because some of the people are still there, and I'm still actually very close to some of them that still live there. And, you know, the friends for life.
Yeah, and it's a real heart of Dublin. That area.
It is. And you'd never be lonely, you know. Yeah. And like I said, I can compare it now to here, because when I lived in Ballyfermot and didn't work in Ballyfermot, I didn't know what was going on in the community. So in the last 2 years, I'm aware of what's going on in the community, and I'm more of a part of the fabric.
So do you have a similar thing here now in
I believe I
have, when you're walking up the street and people are going, oh, Barbara, I'm going to be...
I feel I have, I do. I feel I have. Like, yeah. And it's just nice, you know, as I said, like it just puts a smile on your face, and you do kind of think, you know, not everything is all roses and lilies or whatever it might be, but you know, I just think it's connections, isn't it? It's connections with people is so important.
And then you worked in Dolphin's Barn.
I was down in Dolphin's Barn, yeah. Geez, I worked there for about I think I was there for about 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so coming out COVID type thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That
because
time,
that's, yeah, that was lovely. Now, I have
Yeah.
to say, the men's shed down there, fantastic.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Loved them, really, really loved them. Now, they were
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah. So you worked in the Thomas Street area, then Dolphin's Barn, then here. How are the challenges different from area to area, would you say?
How are they different? They're probably not a lot. I also did a stint in St. Vincent de Paul.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
was
also
that
did.
like inner city Dublin?
Yeah, that was in Sean McDermott Street. So yeah,
Yeah.
I was there. But no, it's like you say, what's the challenges? I'm going back years ago as well. I'm like, what's his name on Only Fools and Horses during the war.
Yeah.
But really, I remember years ago going back to the south inner city and meeting a group, and they were I think it was South African women, and they were coming over. There was like an exchange and so on. And we actually had that conversation about, no matter where you are in the world, the challenges are kind of the same, aren't they? Yeah. Particularly for women, particularly for groups, or or what you'd call, I don't like the expression marginalised communities and so on, but this is kind of what's about, and I suppose the challenges are really, we're all still fighting the same battle we were fighting 50 years ago.
Really? With
regards to, like, if you look at, 50 is probably exaggerating a bit, but there will always be kind of like addiction of some level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There will always be things like that of some level. There will be always, families and different sorts of things going on in families, and in the day-to-day operations, I think you've got the general life of a family still trying to be a family together, and just go to work, earn a living, get a holiday, really. If you ask people what do they want, most of them just want their, their nice home and their nice holiday, really.
And what would you say you've noticed has changed in the how many years you've been doing this kind of work? It must be nearly 30 now.
I'd say all my work in life probably.
Yeah.
So I must be 1992.
Oh,
so yeah,
wow,
1992 is what.
Yeah.
So that would have been kind of the start of when I would, and then kind of the working life then would have started.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then don't forget, you see, it was when the working life started, like I said, the adult education was coming into play. There was a lot of support.
Yeah,
I was lucky in that respect.
Period is when the Celtic Tiger came along, and did that change your work at all, or was it just a similar thing, like you were saying, it's support for families in the community?
It changed, as in, I suppose, when people were working, people were able to get work and so on, and money was coming in and so on. But again, there was always that cohort of people who needed a little bit more help or a little bit more support, and you're always going to have that challenge in general in any community. There will be people who, for whatever reason, just can't seem to get on the ladder.
So like when you come in here, was there a kind of an existing structure, or did you go, I think we need to do this, or we need to set up something else? Or
when I came in here, what happened in the centre here in St. Matthew's was, when I came in, there was no staff, because through COVID and through various, I think two of the ladies, there was retirement and so on. So the group there you can see in the picture, so they're one of the biggest group, and they would have been the Monday group. And when I started, that was my core group, and they were there since 1995 or 1996. So like this is their building. So basically it was me to come in and try and enhance what they wanted. So what I did was, they're still coming here. They loved the classes, they loved the group, and like the talent with the knitting and the arts and crafts. And
so as a resource for older people, would you say that's a really big part of here?
Yes. Now we are open. We do have the younger women's group as well, and we do want to keep younger people coming through this.
Midlife women.
Well, why is older women? And
I think like women going into retirement. So like going, from mid-60s up. When you've kind of maybe pension age.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so nice for people to have a place to go and gather and keep connection.
Yeah.
and I can understand with young mums needing a place to touch base with other women who are going through a similar thing and to have the support. But what about like women who are maybe they're a bit older but they're still involved in their working life or whatever? Is there a cohort of that kind of women? Maybe your Tom 40s, 50s women?
We are open to it. Now, in fairness, we have, so say in evening classes, we do mindfulness and so on. So that would bring in the more available, you know, who are not available in the daytime. Because I'm very aware of that. When I used to be, you know, when I was working in the Liberties area and I was living in Ballyfermot, I was looking for something to do in the night time.
Yeah.
You know, so you kind of say, yeah, you're gone all day. You need to know what's here in the evening time. So yeah, we would, but bear in mind with the way childcare is and the family makeup, a lot of the grandmothers, you know, in their 50s or early 60s or who are ready for retirement, like some of my friends are taking short time in work now to mind their grandchildren.
Really? Yeah.
Because it's just so expensive for the couples to kind of pay their bills and pay their mortgages and continue to go to work and pay for childcare.
So they're taking shorter hours and being there when the child comes out of school and just covering that.
Yeah, no, a couple of my friends are actually doing that at the moment. So, you know, they're not going into work on Monday because they're minding the child, and then another nanny is minding the child on whatever day, and then the parents. Because it's just the whole dynamic of the family life. Yeah.
And then there was a really big thing about, I mean, it was a show I did was about menopause. And do you have anything about that for women? It just became a real touchstone for women of that age group.
Yeah.
Do you have any like...
hot
mad women.
Hot topics.
Yeah. Hot topics, sweaty women.
So she's waving.
Yeah, exactly.
Waving the fan.
I had that in my shot. I never put it in, but it was a thing I had written in my notes that if you looked on telly before everybody started talking about menopause, the way it was indicated on a film or whatever that someone was menopausal was they'd have a fan and you go, oh, that equals menopause. Yeah.
Actually, another very good community worker, Carol, organised a menopause course here in Ballyfermot. It was absolutely brilliant. We used to go and get cupcakes. So that was great. But it was really good and really interesting because if you think back, I don't know, but like it was like as if it wasn't talked about or it was...
I couldn't believe when I started looking into the whole topic, how much it affects everything in a woman's body. And women were being diagnosed left, right and centre with separate things when it really had to do with hormones and losing the hormones. And now we're at this amazing point in Ireland where you can get HRT for free.
Yeah, which is brilliant.
And women are informed.
But even knowing it, you know, because it wasn't a hot topic, you know what I mean? Like people would, I remember a few years ago, a couple of my friends, and they would have been talking about, I've never used it, was it the crystal? Do you remember the crystal or what was
magnet?
That? The magnet, yeah. And they'd be sitting there, you know, have you got your magnet? Have you got your magnet? You know, and I was a few years younger than them, so we'd have the crack, like, you know, we'd be meeting for a Chinese, and these two would be talking about their magnet, like, you know, saying it's all heading for you, you know. No, I haven't tried the magnet yet.
I joked about them in the show, but I then did a tour in England with Dr. Louise Newson, who's she's the main menopause expert in England, and she's amazing. But I asked her, I said, Louise, what do you think of this magnet thing? And she just went,
it's all in the head.
She had this thing, she called it menowashing, and it means you just add menopause onto any product and you can charge much more for the product, you know, menopause shampoo, and it's 50% more and a special, and she was going, it's all a load of nonsense. The only thing that matters is the hormones. So I think education for women around that is so important. And it's just that the reason I was asking about that age group of women is that sometimes it just can be a funny time in women's lives when they're leaving the demanding mum phase and they're not yet retired and they're going through menopause, and I was just wondering if there was a big connection here.
No, as I said, I went and did that course. That was a brilliant one. And through that, I didn't realise there was actually a menopause hub. You know,
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Loretta.
And so
Dignan
much.
runs that. Yeah.
But, you know, there's so much. But I think it's a good idea that it's spoken about, because other than that, women probably just went through it and didn't discuss it, or didn't, you know, what's wrong with me? I don't know. I'll hide it.
Yeah.
You know, let's not tell anybody about this. There's something wrong here. You know.
But speaking of that whole thing of women, is it mainly women that access the resources here?
Yeah. We have a few men, and we're always trying to get the lads in. But
do they have a men's shed in Ballyfermot?
There is men's sheds in Ballyfermot. Yeah. There's one in the other, what I call the big family resource centre, which is down below there, and just the start of, you know, the circle. I call it the circle, the Assumption Church.
Yeah.
So so there's a men's shed down there, and they're really handy. They're creative and so on.
And that is a place for
that's where the lads
prefer that. Yeah. But it's mainly women you get here.
Mainly. Now the cooking, the lads like the cooking.
All right. So do you run cookery classes here?
We did have a chef. And then when the chef finished up, then we got a nutritionist in. She was fantastic, promoting all sorts of protein. I was worried about all my people going around, you know, muscles, I don't know where, but they were a great crack. And then we had a nutritionist. So anything to do with food is always a given. You know, it's always a good thing, you know, especially the healthy food. As I said, everything is here. They can have it. But the food is a good one. You get the lads in, they like that.
So is it like busy here morning, noon and night?
Yeah, every day, every morning there's classes on. There's something on every day. In the afternoon, on Tuesday afternoon's parent and toddler. And then...
And do you keep that going right through the summer too?
Yeah.
Because you said the preschool is not on.
The preschool doesn't be on during the summer, but the parent and toddler carries on. And then through the festival. So Ballyfermot has a festival now, at this time now, the dates, I can't remember the dates, but it's until the 27th of July. And we all, you know, each community group or gets together and does a little stint or provides some. So we'll have a teddy bears picnic there, which booked out so quickly. Oh my God.
So what is the teddy bear picnic? It's like all the little kids come along with their teddies.
Come along with their little teddy bears, and we, you know, like have little colouring and story time. We were kind of hoping to have it in the park across the way, but we're not sure what way that's going to play out. But we're preparing the big room inside there just in case, because you've got weather and you've got all sorts of kind of.
So do you coordinate all that too? Or?
Well, with the support of the childcare team, in fairness, I have to say. The childcare team inside there are brilliant. Brenda is amazing. Now
so you really love your...
Love it, I know. I'm so sad. I'm like... I took a group of women. We went to one green on, I'm not sure you know, the Irish Country Women's Association, which would have been donkeys years ago, you know, was huge and very exclusive and whatever, you know, like... And I was like a group of women off. We went down there, you know, and I was ringing my husband and he was like, will you take that smile off your face? You're supposed to be working. Will you at least? And I was like, you know, I'm having a great time. This is fantastic.
Well, tell us the link between, so, you know, in the Irish Country Women's Association, is there a big link with urban women too? Like, are there branches of the ICC?
The ICA... The biggest...
the ICA, the Irish Country Women's Association,
And I was talking to a lady, and apparently the biggest... What's the language they use? What's the language they use for a group?
Organisation, community, society.
I can't remember. Is in Blanchardstown.
Oh, wow.
Now, so it's Dublin women, because I was thinking, it's only country women, or, you know...
Yeah, I had that impression too.
But no, and Blanchardstown has the biggest... What is the language they use? Somebody will tell me when But Blanche, so cool.
So you went...
We went there, we went there.
That's their headquarters, is it?
Yeah, so it's Termafeckin, so it's... Jenny runs a fantastic operation there.
Well, is she the head of the...
She's
ICA?
The coordinator there. Yeah. She organises the On Green On, so it's an actual place. Tree-lined avenues, beautiful bungalow, but an old house, like a like an estate house, you know, you go up in the staircases there. And
so what, did you stay there, or did you just go down for the day?
do you know what it reminded me of?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I would have went to the Gaeltacht, you know, and you did the Gaeltacht and you did your schools, because that's exactly what it is. You do your classes in the daytime. In the evening, now there's a little pub, so it's great, like, you know, you have a drink and a little sing-song, if you will, or, you know, there was poetry, it was really good.
So how long did you go down for?
We went for 3 days.
Oh, wow. And
now you can do
how many women did you bring?
There was 8 in my group last week, yeah.
Oh, wow. And what age group of women went, would you say?
I'd say the average was 70, yeah, in their 70s.
And did you join in with groups from all over the country?
And you know what they encourage, right? Yeah. So you go in and it's beautiful. No, it's dated, but it's beautiful. It really is. And you remember, do you know the lace, like really good lace and embroidery? So all of this is all on show. There's like statues with the most beautiful outfits that people will have hand stitched, cost a fortune for, you know, brilliant, beautiful talent. And then there's like a big dining area. But when you go down, you're welcomed with, you know, homemade scones, big juicy fruity scones, massive, right? Yeah. But then when you're evening, they try to get you to sit with someone else. So although we had our group St. Matthew's and say there was groups there was County Clare, there was County Cork, and then there was some people on their own, and there was men there. They let men in now as well, yeah. But, you know, they encourage you to sit beside someone else. So you're learning something, you're chatting.
Did you meet country women?
Yeah, we
made
friends with country women.
That's
and there was, and they exchanged numbers.
Oh, that's wonderful, because I know, like, I grew up in the country and I always felt growing up, it was a totally different time, you know, and there was only one channel, RTE and whatever. There was always a sense that, Dublin was just so separate to the rest of the country, and that the experience of country people was like a different Ireland to urban people. It's amazing to have that link.
Yeah. And one lady, like literally, we were there having our scones, we're sitting around the table, we're going, oh, look at this, look at that. There was these quilts, you know, like quilts from all different, it's so hard to describe the talent really between embroideries and knittings and
So what did you do during the day?
We went,
craft?
Did you see the decoupage that I showed you earlier on, the welly boot and I made that.
Wow.
Yeah, our ladies we all got one each. We were given this equipment, a welly boot, some chalk paints, and told what to do, and you were instructed. Or if you wished, you could do, there was gold embroidery. Now that was so really good. Then there was another care, what's that word? Aromatherapies, making aromatherapies and facials. And so you choose what you want to do and you join that class. Oh. So it was like a little school, you know.
And is that something that they run all the time, the ICA?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's really good.
And did the women love it?
They loved it. They were still there and they were planning on going to the next. Wonderful. And then of course then we were like, can we have a look at the bungalows? Because the bungalows, you're like self-contained.
Yeah. So is that part of the thing that you do here, that you go off on trips to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the idea of calling up someone. Like, I'm a bit mad like that, and to be honest with you, I've often done it in other jobs. Like, you literally go through the phone book and see, community development in Kilkenny or family resource, and you just ring them and say, we fancy a visit. And I just say to people, come here, because that's how you make your links.
Oh, that is wonderful. So you're not only providing a service in the community, but you're linking communities.
Yeah. And people make friendships.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what you do.
And then you just share the experience too. And that's
brilliant.
And is that quite novel that you do that, or is that something that
I like doing it? And I remember when I was one of our coordinators, I've gone back ages ago, he's a lovely fella, and Michael Conlon used to do it for us, and we used to go up the north. Yeah. And you do, like, you know,
cross border.
Cross border when, you know, it was a thing. Now we're literally next door. But so, you know, that's where I kind of got it from, because you're meeting people that you wouldn't meet.
You wouldn't meet otherwise.
You wouldn't meet them otherwise. So like you're going up and you're listening to the situations and the stories, especially like we have a friend, like, and she'd have you at not slap because she'd be telling you about she grew up in the Troubles, like, you know, and you've kind of gone, Jesus, like completely different upbringing than what we had.
Experience,
So there's all of that. So that's why, you know, I'd have no problem just picking up, as On Green On is there, you know what I mean? The ICA is there.
Was that the first time that you've been there?
Yeah, I'd never been there.
And now
imagine.
Yeah.
Could you imagine me being in the ICA?
Yeah. I can now. I could see that it's a really nice connection.
Yeah. But you know what I did a couple of weeks ago? I have a young one working here. She's a lovely girl and she's only young. And I'd be trying to get her to kind of get the feel of, you know, where the backgrounds is. But bear in mind, she's so young, like her mother is way younger than me. Wow. And you know what I did one day? I was here and I put on the, do you remember that Gay Byrne show, The Housewife of the Year, the Keller Housewife? She was sitting, she's only early 20s, and she was sitting there, and here she was. She couldn't believe, she was aghast at Gay Byrne. And I was like, my mother used to idolise the ground he walked on. Like, really? And here she was. But that is the contrast.
That is what my new show is about. Yeah. I talk about it because I was just looking back on, I remember seeing that on telly when I was a child. But it was, geez, that didn't end until 94.
That's right.
94. I was in my late 20s.
Yeah.
And it was just seen as the norm. And now you look, because the documentary was out about it, and you look at it and you go, oh my God. The reality.
He got away with like...
But he was a man of his time.
But it was only when I was watching it with her, because I think I skipped over a lot of it as well, because I would have been, you know...
Did you notice the way he'd grab
holding them,
He'd grab you. Like now women would go, get her.
Yeah.
And he grabbed their hands.
Or the lady that was pregnant or something, he was like, will you go again? Or something.
Will you go again? And also there's one bit where he puts his ears to the woman's stomach.
Yeah.
I mean, but that, I suppose there was the time. And that whole idea of asking, would you go again? Is like, that's what women were for.
Yeah.
Like they were dairy cows. Yes, so we... You know, it was
all to win a cooker, huh?
What?
All to win a cooker.
Here's a thing. I met a woman in Ballina, County Mayo, and she came up to me after the show and she went, my mother won. Her mother won in the early 1980s. And I said, what is your big memory? Oh, because she would have been about 8 years of age at the time. I said, what's your big memory of her winning? And she said, the begging letters. Now, her mother would have only won about 1,000 punts. They were inundated with begging letters.
No.
I mean, it wasn't like winning the pools or anything, you know, but it just shows the time. And I also think with Gay Byrne, he did provide that opportunity for women to write in and discuss their problems. And women, if they ended up in a bad marriage situation, or particularly if they were down the country, they ended up isolated.
Yeah.
So Gay Byrne was a touchstone because he began this thing of women writing in. Women started writing in with their problems, and that became a huge... Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. I remember the music. Remember the music? He'd be getting ready for school in the morning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But that's why, people loved him.
My mother idolises the ground. I remember she used to be always threatening she was going to write into Gay Byrne. About what, I do not know.
Yeah, I remember being on the Late Show with a load of comedians in the early 1990s, and Gay Byrne was still doing it then. And I remember the comedian Barry Murphy sitting down at his desk and going, this is where he controls Ireland. But it did feel like that.
Probably.
But it just shows the different time. And, you know, we were just saying that people don't watch telly in the same way anymore now, where everything is so fractured. I think that's what's so wonderful about places like this and what you do. It's about people meeting face to face. But do you have situations in your work? It sounds like a very giving job. And it sounds like, are there times when it's challenging? And you have difficult things to address with people or help with.
Yeah. Well, I suppose, yes. Yes, you would. There would be some challenges, or, if somebody presents themselves and they're really in a bad place and you're trying to, get services, and it's probably 2 o'clock on a Friday or something like that, and you're thinking, okay, I'll get this person, move them on. Or so, yeah, there is challenges in that respect, but thankfully, it's few and far between. There is places out there to help people, and it is few and far between. Like, we're not a crisis type.
You're not a crisis. No. You're at a community support and just a place to come. And like you were saying with the preschool, it's like cradle to grave.
It is. It's a family resource. So basically, we're here to ask, and I totally encourage people to bring in their ideas, ask, what do they want us to do, because that's my role then, is to, make life easy for people.
Do you have anything where, you're talking about the knowledge of the older people and that you're really inspired by them and that you learn a lot from them? Do you have any sort of program whereby they can share that knowledge with other generations? Or
well, there's one at the moment we're working on. It's in collaboration with the CDETB, so the Education Training Board.
Yeah.
And it's women in the sewing trade. So basically, women in the sewing trade, many, many moons ago, there probably was hundreds of sewing factories in Dublin and Ballyfermot, in the inner city, you name it. And lots of women worked. That's what they did. They came out of school at 13, 14, 15 years of age and went into the sewing trade. But it's a lost skill.
Yeah.
So we were approached and working in collaboration with the CDETB, that some of the women from ourselves and from other groups are basically talking about what it was like to work in the sewing trade. So you've got people who came in from their 15, 14 years of age right through until they retired. And one woman was telling me, she went right through to the design. She went right,
you were telling me about her, that she's in her 70s now.
Yeah.
She's looking back going, she wasn't paid the same as the men.
No.
And she was designing.
Yeah.
And she never got paid extra.
Pattern maker, that's the word I'm looking for. Pattern making. Yeah. So you're talking about a highly skilled job, and you're talking about doing it by hand before the computer came in. Wow. And so skilled, and yet, because I'd be saying, God, you should be a multi-millionaire. When you think of now, the designers basically put a little logo on, say, I did that, charge you 500.
Well, I know that there's a whole thing in Paris with people who have those skills, work for ateliers, and it's more in the couture area, but it's very highly prized, and women of that level of skill are, there's a real niche for them, whereas I suppose it isn't here at all.
Yeah, our women could make an outfit from top to bottom. I told you, make wedding dresses, you name it. And it's just the difference, and they have various different stories about, being, literally when they started work, they had their lunch at their machine because there was nowhere for you to go.
There was this whole community of women who were involved in the sewing industry, and then that's all outsourced now to other countries. Yeah. So there's that's not there anymore.
No, Noreen approached us. Noreen was working around in the civic centre there at the ETB, and she was talking about, women and work, and she was saying, nearly everybody I speak to here has worked in a sewing factory.
Wow.
And she was like, we should really do something, get something together, because it's gone. How many people do you know? I think I have a sewing needle and thread in my house that's probably there since the 90s.
Certainly, I know my mum was a great sewer, and there was a whole thing of, like in our mum's generation, it was a women made clothes, but it's just fascinating that there was this whole industry.
A whole industry. So you're talking, the facilitator was fantastic, and he actually did almost a map of all of the list of all of the sewing factories in the area. And there must have been about 10 around this area alone. You know, so you literally, if you didn't like it or something, whatever might happen, you left your job and you went into another job. You know, you always had a job, you always worked. But the girls worked hard, you know.
And so is in this project, they're recording the experience?
They're recording the experience and they're doing a podcast like that. The ladies, you know, it's in the making. You know, we've done some. You know, one woman explains like that she literally went to the door looking for a job with her mum.
Yeah.
You know, and her mum was saying like, I'm looking for a job for her, and they're like, oh yeah, send her in Monday morning, and then she started picking up buttons. You know, and that was a wage.
And were the wages? Were they poverty level wages, or were they adequate for the time?
I don't remember, Anne. I just do remember one of the women saying for the work that she did as years went on, and she, you know, realizes and looks back and says like for such a highly skilled role, what she did, you know, probably the wages weren't, because you've got that inequality with the male and the female, and then they would have been they use words like time and motion, and time and motion is literally you get like seconds to sew a collar or so, and you're talking about a big man's coat, you know, so you're trying to lift this. So
what was the time and motion? Time
and motion is that if you so we're in a line. I worked in a sewing factory, so I can visualize this, or I remember it now with big coats now. But it's basically, so I'm do one part, you do the pocket, you do somebody else does the sleeve, somebody else does a collar, somebody else does the lining. That's not in the correct order now. But and if I'm a bit slow, whoever's waiting on me is losing money, you know, with the time and motion, because it's to do with how much they get done.
Oh, so when it's set up like that, I suppose everybody's driven to work as hard as possible.
So if you're like trying to work and get your work done, but I'm behind you and I'm a little bit slower than the average bear, you're not getting your.
But I think it's so interesting for those women to share their experiences with younger generations, and just because there's a whole history that's just. Yes, changed utterly.
You love them, Anne. I have to say, the stories and the tales. And you know, one woman was saying she worked in a place in Capel Street. Now you're talking decades ago, so everything will have changed. You know, and literally, you know, there would have been mice running around, like, you know, because you've got the clothes, and which means they can hide, and you know, all of that sort. But I'm really looking forward to that coming out, and that project that will probably go on for another year. You know, the term time.
But I love that thing you were saying earlier about what you learn from the older people here. It's just that their perspective on things. It's just
and it's so good, and they're so brave. They're brilliant, you know. They're really brilliant. Like you know, you've got them.
It's amazing that you've made this career in this work. You started out in a bra factory, and you're there. And the thing was, you know, that was what your pals were doing, and when you went, no. You wanted.
It didn't suit me, Anne. It didn't suit me. In fairness, now I was young at the time, but it didn't suit me. It wasn't that type of. I think probably I just wasn't able for the kind of the structure, and it was a long day. I remember we used to get on a coach in the morning at about 4:45, and you'd finish work at like 5 o'clock, 5:30, and you know, it's a long day.
Doing the same thing.
Doing the same thing. Like it's, and as I said, it would have been a bit of crack, and the music had been playing, and Jerry Ryan was a big thing at the time.
Oh,
and
wow,
and, you know, stuff like that. But really, in the grand scheme of things, you know, I don't think I had the concentration. I used to be always making mistakes, actually. That's what it was. I was always making mistakes, getting the bloody labels wrong.
Well, we also mentioned bras. Bras are really complicated. Making a bra. Like,
well, I never made the bra. Now, come on, I packed it in a box.
Did they? Who was making the bras? Was it that like seen as a skilled thing?
What are you talking about? It would literally come out in pieces. So you're talking about your elastic, your cups would come in two parts, your straps, your hook and eye. So that would have been done in the time and motion, and then down the line. You look at your bra differently now.
Yeah, I look at my bra differently. Did you get cheap bras? Did you?
We did used to get cheap bras. And remember there was like a little shop. It was a Friday. Anne was a lovely lady. She used to work in it, and there probably would have been seconds or something.
Yeah.
You know, so say something, maybe oil wouldn't come out or whatever would come out in your wash, or a stitch or whatever it might be. Yeah.
What was the brand of brass that you were? Do you remember?
Jesus, I remember BHS was.
Oh,
I remember,
yes.
BHS and Littlewoods.
Oh, they were. Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, now I'm looking back. I was just shopping in town recently, and I was just going, what?
Yeah.
There's no fun shopping anymore. Half the bloody shops are gone. I think everybody is just buying online. So it's, it's gone.
Yeah.
All that,
Oh, yeah. Jeez. Yeah, the shopping experience, I always remember. Do you remember Forever 21 came into the Jervis Centre?
Yeah.
How long was that there now? Was it be 10 years or more?
Yeah, and it's gone now.
Yes, it's gone. Yeah. Super drug is there, but that came in. My friend and her mum would have been elderly. She had great crack. Her mum was a lovely woman.
Yeah.
But we're in shopping, and next of all, her mum comes out, Forever 21. And bear in mind, like, she was probably close to 80 at the time, and here she was to us, don't go in, there's nothing in it. We were like, wow, she's gassed. She really knows there's nothing in it, Yeah. She was totally oblivious.
Yeah. What age were you when you got married?
I was married twice. So
were you?
Yeah. So the second time, I'm 7 years married now. So I was 48.
7 years?
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm 7 years married now. Yeah. So to a lovely man. I'll mention him. He's Graham. He's lovely. He's
Where
really
did you
good.
meet Graham?
Poland.
Is he Polish?
No, he's English.
So your husband is English?
Yeah.
And did he move?
No, we still live. I have a part-time husband.
Does he live in England?
Yeah.
So your husband lives in England?
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah. So, well, he's in England. He worked here in Ireland. He worked for an Irish company. So that's how I met him. He was working.
So you met him in Poland?
Yeah.
How? Explain that.
Well, I was in Poland. My son, my youngest son, was interested in school, and he was interested. They were doing the Polish. I remember meeting people, and they were saying, "You really went to like concentration camps for a child?" And I was like, "Well, he wanted to. We went to the salt mine." He was 10 at the time,
and he just was interested in the whole history of Poland and the concentration camps.
Kind of. I think it was more the salt mines and the
Did you bring him?
We went, yeah.
Well, how did a 10-year-old process that?
He went.
Oh, actually, I say that, and I remember watching this documentary that used to be on when we were kids called The World at War, and I remember that's where I first saw concentration camps. I would have been about that age,
I remember people saying, and even when we met Graham and his friend, and he was like, "You've really brought the child," and I was like, "Well, yeah, he was his idea."
So you met Graham was in Poland too?
Yeah, so he was working. So he was working as an engineer at the time. He still does, but and he travels for work. So basically, he was working there at the time, and we just ended up talking at the time, and just got talking, and then the usual, you're talking to someone of an evening. That's the end of that, and you exchange numbers. But then when he was back in Dublin, he was working. We went to Johnny Fox's. And I remember thinking at the time, I was like, Johnny Fox's, could you get any further out of the way? You know what I mean? There was something going on here. But no, we ended up going out and dating. And then, we got married. We had a lovely wedding in Clontarf Castle. So,
so he is, so you split your time between Ballyfermot and the UK?
Well, I go over now. I've been over there now, kind of mostly weekends. So he was working, so as he was working, he was saying, so he could have been in Poland, he could have been in Germany, and then he would come back, here, or else we'd go and meet in Newcastle. Or
So is he based in Newcastle?
Yeah.
Oh, so you go and meet him wherever he is?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's really exciting, which suits me because you probably got that I don't stay easy, and I like to kind of, so it just suits the two of us that it's just. Yeah.
So was there a phase when you were raising your kids on your own, or had you split up? Did you split up when the kids were raised?
No, Aaron was only a baby, so so we would have split up kind of very early days then.
Yeah.
And then so he was only a baby, but it was just one of those things, it was the end of the road. It was done.
It was done, but then, so did you feel like a single parent, or did you have the support of the, because you were talking about single, parents and how hard it is for mums when they're on their own.
I think, do you know what? It's only when you think back on it, because I think at the time I would have been busy. Like I would have went back to work, and I didn't tell anybody I was separated. It just kind of just, it was like as if when you think of it, you almost ignored it. So I was in working with people and nobody knew, what sort of.
Was this in the bra factory?
No, this was when I was in the south inner city. I was when you were away. Yeah.
Okay, so you're working at.
Yeah, so I was working and I was busy in the.
And you just didn't mention it?
Just didn't mention. I think I was in denial. For that. Yeah, so later on then, I think it's only these things kind of come to light. But you're busy. Bear in mind, like I had a 4-month-old child at the time. I was going back to work after maternity leave. He was 6 months when I went back to work. Yeah. And so I would have went back to work and tried to resume, had childcare. So you're getting everything organised.
You're getting everything organised.
The other lad was in school, and
And your work is very busy and it's very people focused. Yeah. So you're probably focused outside on other people. So, but you survived it.
Oh yeah. I suppose I had that independence in me.
That you did leave.
I didn't depend on. I would have always had my own income. I would have always, you know what I mean? So I didn't have that breakup, lack of cash or because I'd already had it.
Yeah.
Am I making sense?
Yeah, and I can understand how you were going. It hasn't changed anything that radically for me. So you just got on with your work and you didn't even though you had a newborn.
Yeah. But it was like, I would have always been independent. I don't know how that comes about, but I think when you are that type of independent, and I even now find it very hard to ask for help.
Yeah.
Do you know, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's like, I'll do it myself.
It's interesting that you have a problem with asking for help, and then you're working in a field where people are asking you for help.
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting. Yeah, I do ask for help now. I will say that. I do ask.
You were saying earlier, about with some of the old people, and they say things and you go, God, I wish I'd known that when I was younger. What would be the big piece of advice you'd give your 15-year-old self now, looking back, from what all you know now?
Do you know what, Anne, I've often thought about this. It comes into your mind, or you say, if I only knew that. And I just say things like that. God, on one hand, I would say, okay, if I was to tell myself anything or write myself a letter, I would say, believe in yourself. Believe, you know what I mean? You have to believe in yourself and don't believe in other people and trust other people's opinion of you. Am I making sense?
Yeah, totally.
And I just say things like that. And then I'd be thinking, no, Barbara, because if I didn't have all those experiences, if I didn't have my children, if I didn't have my life, if I didn't live in the flats, get split up, meet Graham, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't have the attitude I have today. Yeah. For that. Do you know what I mean? So again, it's nearly doing full circle and saying, I'm all for the self-help and But
you did believe in yourself.
I do.
But you going right back to when at that point you went when the brother said, "Do you leave us, sir?" And you went for it.
Yeah.
So you did.
I have the can-do attitude. I do have the can-do attitude. But when I think of it, I used to be terrible anxious or terrible nervous or terrible, you know what I mean? Whereas now you kind of just say, Barbara, just get up and take a spoonful of fuck it all, and get on with it.
A spoonful of fuck it all. I haven't had that before. What's that other expression you were saying? Up the flat, yuck the flats.
Yuck the flats.
What does yuck the flats mean?
This comes up all the time on my news feed and stuff. I don't know, but I know it has come about a few times. And I remember there's a guy I follow on Instagram, or say he does like the breathing meditation things, and he always says yuck the flats. So I don't know whether he made that up or
but where. What does it mean? Up the flats?
I'm thinking up the flats.
Or up the flats. But apparently it's an expression in inner city Dublin. They go yuck
the flats.
All right, yuck the flats and a spoonful of fuck it all. There we go. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
If you'd like to get in touch, you can email me on angledy.chats@gmail.com, or you can leave comments or feedback in the comment section of whatever platform. Anne Chats is a Farron Gildee production produced by Paul Farron and Anne Gildee.